Hey there, seven wrestlers. It is I, your wrestling buddy. Well, not like that wrestling buddy. Senior Siete here with another Seven Wrestling podcast. Today, we're going to talk about 7 ways that AEW can right the ship. Now, I was trying to think of a way to touch on more timely subjects, something that can be turned around quickly without a megaton of editing, and this is what I came up with. Just a quick and dirty way to touch on subjects in the wrestling world. Now, if there are any fun topics you'd like to hear about, if you have any questions about wrestling history or want to hear my point of view on any topics, please feel free to drop a comment below. And if you care about my qualifications to discuss such things, I've been a diehard wrestling fan since the heyday of the Mega Powers, the Handshake. I actually was a professional wrestler for the better part of 5 years in the late 90s, early 2000s. Bounced around a lot of independent organizations during that time. Wouldn't say I was particularly good at wrestling, but I didn't look so bad in spandex. So I had a lot of fun. I met a lot of nice people. It was a good time. So I've honestly really been having a blast with this channel. I know some of you even liked the video before you've even had a chance to watch it, which is huge, or you're posting brother in the comment section to help with engagement. Know that I see you. I love it. Best friggin' friends. Yeah, keep it up. I love it. The more stuff like this, the more attention it gets, the more fun we can have together. All right, that being said, let's dive into today's topic. 7 ways AEW can right the ship. Before we get into this, I know wrestling has a ton of tribalism. WWE fans, AEW fans, TNA fans, etc. I don't believe in that one bit. I mean, I believe those people exist. I'm saying I don't subscribe to that. Because, but too much great wrestling is a good problem to have. I would love for AEW, TNA, and everyone else to do new, creative stuff, turn themselves into must-watch television. There's so much wrestling on TV right now, and I don't have time for all of it. It's kind of easy to know what to cut right now, and that tends to be the AEW programming. A great example of everybody coming to the plate would be the Final Deletion match back when it launched a million years ago. Everyone's telling me I needed to check it out, so I did. I didn't have much use for Impact Wrestling at that point, but it had enough of a buzz that I gave it a try. And honestly, it wasn't for me, but I could appreciate that Matt and Jeff Hardy were trying something new. And the problem I'm having with AEW is that it's just not clicking with me anymore. I DVR Dynamite, Collision, Rampage, and I feel less and less of a need to actually sit down and watch any of them. It's honestly to the point where I fast forward through Dynamite on Wednesday night, pretty much ignore the rest. I'll hear about a great match, but there's a lot of great matches. So it really needs to pique my interest to get me to watch. So how do we get AEW back on track? Well, here is one a-hole's opinion. Number 1, too many damn belts. Yeah, this one is kind of a no-brainer, but it's time to start cutting down on the amount of gold that's being hauled to and from the ring. You've got the AEW World title, the AEW Continental title, the TNT title, the International title, the tag team titles, 6-man tag team titles. That's just for the guys. You could tack on the AEW Women's title and the TBS title, etc. Then over the years, they've had belts from New Japan, Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, TNA, AAA. And just like with the movie The Incredibles, when everybody's special, nobody is. They really need to consider, merging some of them, eliminating some of them, etc., or just keeping them, unique to their programming. Whenever someone shows up with a ring, it's too much to keep track of. And I'll say, WWE has too many belts too, but at least I understand the hierarchy of those belts. There are 3 different franchises, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Each has a top belt, each has a secondary belt, and each has tag belts. Similar, with the exception of the women's belt, of course. Similar with the women's side. You've got, your world title, your secondary title, and then, tag team belts that rotate. So I understand who should go for what, but in TNA, you've got, Okada, arguably, the best wrestler in the world with this belt he wins in a tournament, he puts up occasionally, and is that I get that AEW World title is tippity top, but like where the TBS title? Because I don't think for a second that Okada would have a problem kicking Garcia's ass and taking his belt. So just less belts, guys. Just it's too many. Like help us focus. Number two, too much New Japan. Now, don't get me wrong, I love New Japan Pro Wrestling, but the problem they've kind of run into is that the Forbidden Door isn't like a special event. Like that should be the only time there's any kind of crossover because again, AEW's got this mega roster that they aren't utilizing properly. We hardly see half of these people half of the time. But the problem I'm having now is, I had seen Will Ospreay and Okada and Jay White so frequently on AEW TV that by the time they signed on to be a permanent part of the roster, well, who cared? I'd already seen half of the matches I was interested in seeing them in. It wasn't special to see them. Think about when CM Punk returned to WWE last year. Just seeing his face on WWE TV was enough to get your attention. Whereas when they're like, "Hey, we signed Will Ospreay," well, that's great. I'm looking forward to his matches, but like, it's not special. I've seen him there before. So my thoughts on this would be trim it down a little bit. Like maybe make Forbidden Door like a special event where only then will you see the New Japan talent. Because unless you're doing like an invasion angle, there's no reason to have them more frequently than that. Number three, learn to pivot. Again, I'm going to roll this up under just one. This is all just one a-hole's opinion. This a-hole. But the Mox storyline, where they're trying to take over, they're beating bags over heads. Like it's not doing a damn thing for me. And the problem with that is that I feel like it feels like we're building to an end game where Darby Allin wins the world title, which is great. I'm all for elevating new talent, especially talent that hasn't appeared elsewhere that's not considered a WWE guy or New Japan guy. I think that's a great end game. The problem is, if we're not digging it, are we stuck in this until Tony Khan is ready to pull the trigger 6 months down the line? Got to know when to pivot if it's not working. Like, how do you heat this up? How do you switch it up so that we're not bored to tears? Especially because AEW doesn't have like a trademark final event. Like, I get All In is kind of a climax of the year, but really not officially. It's always weird because it leads into All Out, which I get them confused, All In, All Out, whatever. It's a weird time. It's not an exclamation point to a season. It feels more like an ellipsis where we're just going to keep going. So maybe have like that event or make All In that event and eliminate All Out so that we know we're building to Darby winning the title here. And that at least will give us some hope that this thing is either going to get swerved in a different direction or finally end. But yeah, that's where I am right now. Where it feels like if someone gets hurt, if someone leaves the company, that Khan just doesn't know how to pivot and move on to something better. So that's something I'd like them to focus on. Speaking of Tony Khan, number four, Khan gone. I'm sure Tony Khan is a perfectly nice guy. He likes wrestling. I like wrestling. He's a mega billionaire. I clip coupons, but let's face facts. He doesn't exactly inspire thoughts of powerful leadership. Now, it's wrong to assume the large portion of the audience follows all of the backstage hullabaloo, although with an audience like AEW, it's probably a larger percentage than WWE. But if you believe all the rumors you hear about backstage shenanigans, supposedly he cut short that Young Bucks angle where they were taking over the company because he was worried that people would think that he wasn't actually booking it, which is a weird thing to worry about. I don't think that George Lucas was ever worried that the Sith were stealing his thunder as far as moving things along in the Star Wars trilogy. He looked completely inept during the CM Punk fiasco. Didn't look like he was really in charge. Looked like he was letting Punk push him around. And people just keep beating up Sammy Guevara for real, which he has a punchable face. I get it, but still, it feels like with WWE, there's a sense of, don't cross management. That's how a business works. You don't want to get walked all over like it seems like Tony Khan does. Nobody's really pushing Triple H around outside of The Rock, but and no one, Vince McMahon, his word was law. That's kind of what a lot of people think killed WCW is there was different people to go to, different people to appeal your concerns to. You really need, especially in a sport like professional wrestling, You really need like a hardline manager, and he's just not that guy. So, Tony Khan still do the booking job, still do the general manager work, still figure out who to sign and who to let go, stuff like that. But the day-to-day managing of the talent should go to somebody who comes off as less of a pushover. And I hate to say it, he's got to stop with the on-camera appearances. Again, perfectly nice guy, I'm sure, but like, how do I say this? And not, he's a dork. I mean, the guy's a dork. So when he, comes out with this big announcement, it's like I never know what level of enthusiasm to have because I've seen him get enthusiastic over some pretty dumb stuff. So yeah, I think Tony Khan is best kept backstage, not necessarily on the day with the talent. Just like give them the breakdown of what it's supposed to be. Do your booking. Obviously, he loves that kind of stuff, and I will put a big asterisk by this. The one way I would, and I hate fantasy booking, but screw it, I'm a fantasy book for you. The one way I might be into it was I kind of had this thought that Triple H, the knock on him has always been like, well, how big would he have been if he hadn't married Stephanie McMahon? What if a female character got close to Tony Khan and started to use her feminine wiles to move things in her direction? In particular, I'm thinking about Britt Baker. Might be interesting if they wanted to get a little inside baseball. Britt Baker gets on his good side, starts cozying up to him, and then he takes that on Adam Cole or starts working with MGF, something like that. So that might be the only way I'd be cool with Tony Khan being an on-air character. Number 5, know when to pull the trigger. This kind of falls in the same thing as knowing when to pivot. I feel like the last time I was actually genuinely excited for AEW was during Full Gear 2023, when Swerve Strickland beat Hangman Page in that death match, because Swerve looked like a star. He looked like Killmonger from Black Panther, just like this. Not even a wrestler anymore. He was a friggin' force of nature. And if I was in Tony's shoes, I would have pushed him to the moon. And they didn't. He got bogged down in the Continental Classic, which is a great tournament if you like great matches, but I'm not inspired to watch because of great matches anymore. There's a lot of great matches. So he got bogged down in that tournament, and he looked good, but he didn't win. They did put the title on him eventually, but by that time, I had lost interest. It's very much a matter of got to strike when the iron is hot, and they just didn't do that. Oh, and speaking of Swerve, number 6, gotta rehab more WWE stars. When Vince McMahon retook control of WWE, AEW was kind of like the refuge for talents who didn't think they were getting used properly. And of everyone that made the jump, you got like Rusev, Andrade, Aleister Black, Keith Lee, list goes on and on. Of them, the only WWE guy that wasn't a big star to become a big star, Swerve Strickland. Now, there are some extenuating circumstances in some of these cases. Some people got hurt. Some people got addicted to their Twitch pages apparently. But it's kind of killed his reputation as somebody who can take somebody who's underutilized in WWE and do something better. It seems like talent's going to be less and less likely to jump to AEW based on what has happened to those guys. It's kind of given Tony the reputation as someone who gets very excited with his new toy and then quickly moves on. And I think that could affect him going forward. Dolph Ziggler is an example, someone who left WWE and went to Impact when, he seems like somebody who would kind of be up Tony Khan's wheelhouse. But and I don't know for sure why he did what he did, but it seems like before it would be a no-brainer to make the jump to AEW. And that Tony could have his pick of whoever he wanted. And now I'm not so positive that's what it is. Number 7, get Jericho and MJF back on track. Okay, so Chris Jericho. This is tough. Chris Jericho can still go, right? He can still contribute. He's a big name that like a lapsed WWE fan will still recognize. Like if you're a fan of the Attitude Era and you tuned into AEW, you'd recognize Jim Ross and you'd recognize Chris Jericho. And what I keep coming back to with Chris Jericho is I remember when he went from being the Ayatollah of rock and roll to heel Chris Jericho, who eliminated all of his catchphrases and started wearing a suit. Now, if you don't remember what that was, he had been in a feud with Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels had been lying. Chris Jericho was calling him out for it, and when it came to light that, yeah, Chris was right and Shawn was wrong, fans didn't care because they love Shawn Michaels. And that was the impetus for Chris Jericho turning heel. Whereas this learning tree character, it's like they looked at the online message board, saw that people were sick of Chris Jericho, and just decided to troll him, which to me kills his character. There's no point A to point B. How do we get from him being the bat swinging painmaker, he has a new gimmick every 5 minutes, to like, hi guys? Like it doesn't fit. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't sell me on him. Instead of him being a character, he's being a caricature. Instead of this being the actual Chris Jericho, it's Chris Jericho doing a bit. And I don't need someone doing a bit. We want to believe, the best gimmicks are yourself with the gimmick turned up to 11. And this feels like he's doing a whole different thing. It's not working. So I don't know if the move is to take him off TV for a while, like he used to do back in WWE, but he hasn't been off TV in a very long time. Whatever it is, they need to figure it out, figure how to get Chris Jericho back on track. Maybe that is breaking him down to his roots, or him appreciating that he's kind of become a shell of his former self and wanting to build himself back up to prominence. Also on this list, MJF. Oh, boy, I'm a big MJF fan. He can work, he can talk. He is probably their best bet for a crossover star, similar to like what you would see with John Cena or The Rock. And he's floundering. What happened after his injury seems like a huge step back. This whole feud with Adam Cole has been a disaster. Even over the summer when he was having great matches with Will Ospreay, it was kind of tainted by like a cheesy playing into the USA jingoism to get heat. He's better than that, and you know that. What is it? I'm better than you, and you know it. Yeah, he's better than that, and I know it. So it's like MJF has got to figure something out, and I don't know what that is. I don't have a like. I liked the idea of he's an a-hole, but he's our a-hole. I like that form of being a babyface. The Miz tried something like that and it never took because the Miz is just naturally punchable. But MJF, I think, really could have run with that, but I think they cut it too short to focus on this Adam Cole disaster. Hopefully, and maybe it's steering away from the edgelord stuff that he does, but there's got to be something there. And I know that's not a concrete answer, but yeah. But yeah, getting Jericho and MJF back on track, that's going to be huge for AEW. All right, that's my list. That's the 7 ways I would fix AEW. If Tony Khan gives me a call, I don't anticipate that call based on what I just said about him. If you enjoyed this, if you have any other thoughts on how to fix AEW, please let me know in the comments section below. Also, if you have any questions, if there's anything you want me to cover in the future, please let me know. If you just want to say hi, just want to say brother, I'll send your brother right back. All right, with that being said, I'm Singer Siete for 7 Rasslin, saying bye-bye.